What's up, everybody? Welcome into Wednesday's edition of Money Shots. We were almost as late for the show as Steve Cheah was on the Foo Fighters news, but it's okay. We're here. We're live, and we're going to be talking some NBA. We're talking props. We're talking size. We're talking totals. We're talking series prices. I'm really just here to be your groovy guide, if you will, but these two are going to be handing y'all winners. Let's start with Steven. How are we feeling today?
Feeling good. I would have felt better if Kevin Durant chose to shoot a little bit more last night, but over very good. Paul George hit his rebounds prop, which I loved. It moved from 6.5 to 7.5. There's so much action behind it. And then Karl Anthony Towns, I was big on the under, and he was way under everything. So happy about that. But I put it up early with Kevin Durant over points. Not the best, but looking forward to the next couple of days of playing games.
And Kelly, how are we feeling today on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon?
Megan, sometimes it's just better to fade other people than yourself. I got this guy friend that is just getting killed in baseball, so I'm loving it. I just hit the Nats first 5, so I am on a roll this morning. I'm ready to have a great day. Maybe baseball isn't so bad after all. You just need to not waste your time handicapping and just figure out who's not very good at it. I couldn't believe it. I texted my buddy that's a Nats fan. I said, "Do you like your team today?" He goes, "No, they're going to get killed." I'm like, perfect. Sign me up. I better just take them first 5 so their bullpen doesn't screw me. Really excited to have Cheah on. Hopefully we'll have him as a staple piece on Money Shots over the next couple of months to get us through NBA because, man, he's got a big brain. He loves the data. We can talk all of the numbers, and hopefully you guys learn a little bit of something.
That's the goal here, not from me, but from you two. Let's go ahead and question, Steven. How do you plan to handicap these props during the playoffs?
Sure. So it's really interesting. I started making a model based on regular season versus playoffs. And it's interesting because typically I'm a guy who bets overs on props. It's way funner to see your guys that you bet on really succeed and then be right about that. But looking at the numbers from last year as far as all playoff teams, every statistical category is down. So points by team down 3.6 points a game, rebounds per game down 1.4, assists down 2.7. So these are pretty big swings. Assists is almost an 11% difference in the regular season. So you really got to pick your spots because while the team goes down, the cream typically rises to the top, and you see with superstars, and that's why it's such a big deal with the Sixers, the Nets, and everybody going after all these superstars. Those are the guys that kind of rise to the occasion during playoff time. So it's a very interesting time to bet big overs on superstars and bet unders on everybody else.
Makes sense to me, and I would much rather bet an over with a superstar, as you said. Way more fun. Yeah. You're going to literally have so much more action. And Kelly, I don't think I've ever asked you this, and I don't know if the good people out there who have followed you forever know. Are you betting NBA props, or are we just going to see some sides and totals from you? Or are we just following Cheah? What's the way, Kelly?
So Megan, back in my former life when I did a lot of stuff with NBA TV, I had to find props, and they were tough during the regular season, especially towards the end after All-Star break before the playoffs, because who's sitting, who's playing full minutes. And sometimes you don't get that information until right before tip. So it kind of gave me a little bad taste in my mouth. And I said, you know what? I'm going to leave the prop market to people that pay a lot more attention than I do. As we know with NBA, I like to fade narratives, right? Well, Kyrie's back and the line goes up 5.5 points. Well, the bookmakers already knew that Kyrie was going to be back. It was already built into the original line. So fine, give me the 13.5 points with the terrible team they're playing. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for. Now, as Cheah mentioned, the cream's rising to the top. This is the playoffs. Everybody is going to play 100%. Everybody is going to give their full potential. And that means defenses as well. So I'm actually going to be looking at a lot of these totals. Last night, I had a buddy that said, hey, take a look at both unders. I didn't tweet it out. I do feel bad about it, but it was so last minute that I don't know if anybody would have been able to get them in anyway. We bet both the unders. That was really nice. I did have a slight lean towards the T-Wolves. They got it done in the second half. So I'm going to leave the props to Cheah, but I'm excited because I think that there's going to be a lot more defense than we're accustomed to. I think it's going to take a couple weeks for the bookmakers to catch up. So I'm looking at unders. And as Cheah mentioned, that might also leave a little bit of room for the unders in the prop market. So maybe I should spend a little bit more free time looking at those, especially with some of the non-key players like he mentioned.
Okay, so essentially, Kelly, you might throw some props out there, but we're all going to be riding Stephen Cheah. Hopefully, you don't mind us riding along with you. Speaking of which, you said that, look for the superstars and the overs on their props. Is there any particular superstars or anybody just in particular that you are looking to bet on over the next couple of months? And in that same question, are there people that you're just going to absolutely fade, you want no part of? Kind of give me your back and forth on that, if you will.
Sure. So I think, and this is an example from last night, it's going to be tough to handicap the Nets moving forward just because one of their two guys is going to have a huge game, but which guy is it? So like Kevin Durant and Kyrie points, I think are going to be pretty tough to come by because like Kyrie started off, I forget what he finished at, but he started off 10 for 10. And Kevin Durant obviously took a little bit of a back distributor role, but based on the numbers in historical playoff performances, Kevin Durant is the guy that rises to the top. And I think it should be interesting against Boston, a team that is like very good defensively, how he's going to really perform. Obviously, Kyrie's for our team, but the last 5 years, Kevin Durant has been in the playoffs. He's scored more in the playoffs than the regular season. The last two times he's in the playoffs is 6.3 points more a game and 7.4 points a game, more than regular season average. That is a huge number. So I do like his points, but it is risky just due to the fact that Kyrie is there and can go off for 50 really any game.
All right, so you're looking at Durant, but also not looking at Durant in the same instance. So it's
So I think something that's going to be interesting to look at his other props. So not necessarily scoring, but assists have been really consistent lately. He had a career high assist in his last regular season game that continued through to last night. He's just getting more guys involved. I think that's something that a lot of NBA superstars realize a little bit later in their career when they can't, necessarily put up 50 or Kevin Durant still could, but just the way to win is to get more guys involved. I mean, through the first half yesterday, he took 6 shots. I mean, this is probably the best player on the planet. He's taking 6 shots in the first half. That's not necessarily a thing where he can't score, but it is more efficient. He had the best plus minus on the team last night to get other guys involved. So he's really picking his spots, and he's doing it in a very smart way. It just makes betting on his scoring prop very tough. But I do like his assist prop. He was double-digit assists last night, averaged 6.4 assists on the year. But I think this is a spot where you could see him continue to kind of go off of this model.
All right, so we're not looking at Durant scoring. We're looking at Durant assists because he's a team player and definitely not a snake of any kind. So shout out Kevin Durant. Hopefully you're watching on your burner. All right. So obviously we've gotten through the prop market just a little bit. Let's talk play-in games for tonight. Up first, you have Hornets, Hawks. And as I said, I do not bet a ton of NBA. If I get some knowledge my way, I'll throw some stuff out there. But it's not something that I'm overanalyzing. I will say that if I had to pick a side in this game, I think I would lean Hawks. They're 4-0 last 4 ATS, and then 6-0 ATS last 6 as a favorite. Obviously, they have a little bit more experience. But again, I don't know who's playing, who's not, what's happening, if anyone's hurt. This is just me going off of what I knew from the year prior. Kelly, let's first see what you think about this game, and then I'll hit you, Steven, to see if we have any props or just overall knowledge. So, Kelly, what do we think about this playing game?
Megan, I don't love this game. Truth be told, I haven't even bet it yet. Probably won't bet it. We'll see how things end up moving. Currently 5.5, so you have to lay with the Hawks at the Barstool Sportsbook, and that is kind of the way I lean here. To use Cheah's euphemism, the cream does rise to the top here in the playoffs. So we're going to see some favorites come out, and they're going to come out of the gate really hot. And no team was hotter to end the season than the Hawks, right? They won 7 of their last 9 games, scoring over 123 points per game in that 9-game stretch. I do think that the Hawks are the better team here. 5.5, 5, depending where it opened at Barstool last night. I would like to lean with the favorite here. I do have my concerns with them a little bit defensively. The Hornets definitely can put up buckets. We know Young is an absolute monster out there. We'll see if the Hornets can play some defense here. I think this is going to be an under type game. The last 7 times these two have met, it's went under 6 of the times. But again, I don't think I'm going to be getting involved here. I like another side in the other game significantly more.
All right, Steven, I want to ask you, what's your take on this guy in the comments saying that your parents spelled your name the wrong way? He's spelled Stephen. So what is your take on that?
Curry. I mean, so does Stephen Curry, but my name is Steven with a V. So that is the proper way to spell it, and then that's how everyone should spell it.
Okay, happy to have that take. There you go.
I would agree. PH is Stefan. That's Steve.
Correct.
V. I would agree with that.
I would agree as well.
Hot take, but I agree.
Hot take, but you agree. Okay, so Che, do we have any inklings on this game tonight? Do you have any props that you like? Is there anything that you're looking at?
So one thing on this game tonight is very fishy, and that is Trae Young 3-point makes. Reason is last year he took 2.7 more threes per game than he did in the regular season. So he was averaging 6.3 a game in the regular season. In the playoffs, that went up to 9. This year in the regular season, he's attempting 8 a game. So if he continues an upward trajectory like that, it might not be 3, but we could see him put up 10 3-point attempts. The 3-point attempts line is not out yet. So I have a feeling that this one's being held back a little bit because I think once it comes out, it's going to come out at 3.5, and the public's going to hammer the over, which is a very risky play for the bookmaker. So Trae Young 3-pointers, I'm definitely keeping an eye on to see if that comes out. But I have a very scary prop to take tonight, and that is Trae Young under 31.5 points. He has played the Hornets, let me see, about 13 times, it looks like, in his career. He's never scored 32 points against them. This is a very dangerous play because he is a superstar. He is a guy who rises to the top. Last year, he saw a big scoring average boon in the playoffs. He averaged 3.5 more points a game, went up from 25.3 to 28.8 in the playoffs. So if we project that towards this year, he averaged 28.4 a game. So he's right around that 31-ish mark. So is that a play for tonight? Based on historicals, it is a valuable line. It does feel really high. His assist total is also really high. It's 11.5. So those are spots where you could potentially look at unders, but that's going to be an absolute sweat probably the whole game. But I think the value is in the under. Will I bet that? I want to see what his 3-point line comes out at first. But that's something I'm looking at. Another one is Clint Capella. His rebounding line is 12.5, which is high. He does a nice job. He averaged 11.9 during the regular season. But against the Hornets, big guys feast on the boards against the Hornets. He played them 4 times. He averaged 13 boards a game. I think he's a safe bet to be over 12.5 boards. There are typically players that rebound more, rebound specific, typically are right around that average and don't trail off as much in the playoffs. So I like Clint Capella boards over tonight.
Okay, so Steven, if you do decide to play any of these, I would like to kindly ask you to tweet your plays underneath the Money Shots link that we retweeted before the show, because a lot of people in the chat all agree that you're the sharpest NBA mind out there. So we got to see what we're working with here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next playing game, which is, I believe, the game that Kelly was talking about, which she favored much more. And that's Spurs, Pels. I do live in Louisiana. Pels are the team, my team, if you will. But I was talking to Kelly and just letting out of full transparency. Again, I have not watched a ton of NBA. I'll get some info. I'll read some stats, and I'll throw some bets out there. I do know that this team is pretty banged up. I'm not exactly sure what the play would be here. I know what seems like everyone and their mom is on the Spurs. Let me switch it up before – no, actually, I want your side first, Kelly, because I think you're really excited about this. So, Kelly, talk to us about this game. Tell me why the Pels are going to win and cover, and let me know what you think about the total.
I told Mincy this, I think it was last Friday when I did Pick Central, that I was going to be on the Pels in this game. I had a feeling they would be a decent favorite. Sure enough, Barstool opened at 5. They moved to 5.5. The interesting one here is that kind of frustrates me is I leaned towards the under last night, and it has plummeted like a rock, Megan. It was like 229, I think was the opening number. It's now 224.5. And rightfully so. I do think this is going to be an under type game, but now I'm late to the party. But I do like the Pels here. I think this is a Pels team that with Ingram, if he's going to play, he is probable. He is built into this line, so it is assumed that he's going to play tonight. Between Ingram and McCollum, this is like a dynamic duo, if you will, right? When these guys are on the court together, it gives the Pelicans the recipe not only to win, but to cover. And so I do like this team tonight. I do think that they're going to be playing hard. Look, the history is on the side of the Pels too. If we look at the play-in tournaments from 2 years ago, higher seeds are 8-1 straight up. So I definitely think they're going to win this game. But I do think that we need full minutes from McCollum and as close to full minutes as we can from Ingram for them to cover this. Everything I'm hearing is going to be great. I don't think this is going to be a tight game towards the end. It might be a tight game in the first half. So maybe if you do like the Spurs, play them in the first half. But this is a Pels team that has a deep bench, Megan, and I just think that they're going to be able to outlast the Spurs, if you will. I understand why everybody wants to bet the Spurs. You've got Coach Pop and the history associated with him. He's got extra time to prepare. I'm just not buying the hype. I do think the Spurs are the square dog tonight, and I like the Pels.
All right, Steven, give me your take. And if you have what you think is a prop of value, go ahead and spit it to us.
Yep. I also like the Pels tonight. I just think that like defensively, they're a tight team. Things tighten up a lot during the playoffs. I'm kind of the play-in as the playoffs. It's it's a one-game playoff to get in the playoffs, basically. The Spurs, Dejounte Murray's a nice player. It'll be interesting to see what New Orleans does. Like, do they stick Herb Jones on him? Who's a very good defender. A couple props that I like tonight. Herb Jones, who I just mentioned, defensive specialist. His point total is 10.5, which feels a little bit high. A lot of times in the playoffs, they opposing teams that are facing a player with very weak offensive game will essentially make them create. Sometimes that limits that player to the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Herb Jones. I'm not going to bet it, but I'm going to keep an eye closely on it to see how that projects forward for the playoffs, assuming New Orleans wins this game and gets to move on to the next game. That's something I'm looking at, but I do like one prop a lot, and I hate betting on guard rebound props because a lot of times they won't even be close to crash the boards, especially if they have a man that eats up rebounds like Jonas Valanciunas, who's a little bit banged up. But CJ McCollum has a rebound prop that is at 4.5 right now. He averaged 6.3 boards a game against the Spurs during the regular season. And then looking at his historical playoff numbers, he has gone up in rebounds significantly. In 4 out of 5 years he's been in the playoffs in the last 6 years. He's gone up from like a solid 20+% each year. He averaged 4.3 boards a game this year, so he's right kind of on that track. So everything's pointing to that being the play tonight. I'm going to dig a little bit more into all the other props, and I'm waiting to see what the Trae Young number comes out at. I assume it's going to be 3.5. But for the play in a late game, that's what I'm leaning towards, and I'm likely going to make that my play of the night.
Don't forget, go ahead, tweet it underneath the Money Shots link. Everybody in the comments loves the Stephen Cheah. Let's move on to just a preview.
Yeah, that's at -106 right now. So more money's on the under, which is a value.
Value. That's what we like to preach here on Money Shots. Let's go ahead and look at Saturday's game. You have Jazz, Mavs. Mavs are catching 5. Kelly, tell me which way you lean in this game.
So, Megan, I haven't really done that much on Saturday's games just yet because I haven't decided who I actually think is going to advance. This has been kind of an interesting series for these two, right? Obviously, the Nuggets are the underdog in the series. And as Cheah has already said, look, the better team usually prevails, especially in round 1 of the playoffs. And so I'm looking at the first game and looking for any trends, trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If you have two teams in the same division, right, it has been a money maker to take the favorite. And that's where I'm looking at these two going, man, I want to take the Nuggets in the series. I want to make a case for this team. I do think that they have the ability. My problem, obviously, is with several of the injuries that this team has chalked up over this season. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. When are they going to be back? Are they not ever going to come back if they were to somehow win the series without him? So I'm going to stay away, but know that I'm looking towards Warriors game 1, and I will definitely tweet it out. Like as I mentioned, divisional home favorites, 80% in the last few years against the spread in game 1. So looking for those trends to kind of back up not only the math, but to try to decide how I want to play some of these games. Currently, Warriors -5. I don't know why all these games are 5, but it seems to kind of start out that way. I think if you like the Warriors, you probably want to bet them now.
Would you agree with that, Steven?
Yeah, for sure. I bet less like spread games and moneyline games straight up. I'm more looking to the props, but something like this game's going to be tough to handicap right now just because Luka Doncic strained his calf last game of the regular season. He's day to day. I would assume he's going to play, but like, what is his effectiveness going to be? So I think from the Dallas perspective, it's going to be pretty hard to tell right up until game time. But one guy I'm absolutely watching is Donovan Mitchell, and he hasn't been great against Dallas this season. He had one game where he was 7 of 12 from downtown and really lit it up. But essentially, aside from that, in the other games against Dallas, he wasn't super effective. That being said, he is one of these guys who primetime player steps it up in the playoffs. His last two playoff series, his last two playoff seasons, his scoring average has gone up 12.3 points and 5.9 points a game. But one prop specifically I'm looking at is 3-pointers. So Donovan Mitchell all season chucks threes, absolutely chucks them. I mean, he's shooting 9.8 a game. But in every year, he's been in the playoffs 4 years, he shot more threes in the playoffs. The last 3 years, a very significant amount. We're talking 1.9, 2.2, 2.8 more threes per game in the playoffs in the regular season. He's at 9.8 right now. So if we're projecting that up, even just 2, he's shooting, almost 12 threes a game. So to catch 3.5, which right now is at plus money, I think is a really good value. So I like Donovan Mitchell over 3-pointers, which he has done regularly. I would just caution that Dallas is a very good defensive team, and let's see what happens with Luka Doncic. So you might not want to place it yet, but that's definitely one to keep an eye on that I like, because historically Donovan Mitchell does rise in the playoffs.
Megan, let me chime in real quick on that game, because it kind of goes back to the trends that I was looking at for game 1 of the playoffs, and that is home underdogs, right? We know I love the home underdogs, so I was looking at Dallas trying to figure out what was going on. It does look like they've built into the line that Luka is probably not going to play, which is a little bit concerning, but home underdogs game 1 have just been burning money. Absolutely atrocious. 5-21 against the spread in the last 6 years. So try not to overhype the Mavs right now. I'm not saying I'm going to bet the Jazz, but that might be just enough to keep me off the Mavs, especially if Luka is not 100% or is not a go.
Yeah, that's a pretty disgusting stat for home underdogs. I would like no part in that, please. What's up, Cheah?
One other thing that I want to point out about that game specifically, Rudy Gobert's rebounding line is 15.5, which is wildly high. He averaged 14.7 during the regular season, 13.7 against the Jazz. I would just caution that every year he's been in the playoffs, it's been either equal to his regular season average or lower by a decent margin, like 2 to 3 rebounds less per game. So I think this is a spot where it could be an under, even though they'll likely be starting Dwight Powell, who's 6'10", 240 at center. I think this could be a spot where the line is just like 15, like getting 16 rebounds. That's a ton of rebounds. So I kind of see the value in the under there. It's minus 143, so not a ton of value, but I think that's a bit high.
As Kelly said the other day, she's relearning that paying the juice, as long as you win, doesn't matter. So
It's a painful thing because I just avoided all football season. I'm just looking for because I care so much about those dogs winning outright, and that's kind of what I've always branded, the shift to NHL, the shift to the prop markets, the shift to golf, baseball. It's just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to it. I'm not going to lie to you, Megan.
It's okay. As I said, we do like to preach value, but we're also trying to learn that a good bet is a good bet, even if you're having to pay a little bit of extra juice for it. Okay, up next, I want to hear your take, Kelly. Wolves, or T-Wolves, Grizzlies. Grizzlies are laying 6.5. You said the home dogs have been burning money, but how have the home favorites been?
The home favorites have been really great, and that's just because, again, going back to what Steve says, is they are just a significantly better team, right? If you get home court advantage in the playoffs, it's because you're a really good team. I was very appreciative of the T-Wolves last night and my lean of them. This line's a little high for me to probably bite on the Grizzlies, but I do think the Grizzlies are the team out of the West that can either compete with the Warriors or the Suns. So I don't want to step in front of them. I'm going to stay away from this game most likely. I do think the line is just a smidge too high. But, the T-Wolves, they can show some moments of greatness. I'm just not sure that against Memphis, we're going to see that.
All right, Steve Cheah, we got any props for this game? We looking at anything in particular?
Yeah, the full props aren't out yet, but I would just caution as far as like players. One that I would look at again is Karl-Anthony Towns. Did have a rough game yesterday, got in foul trouble, missed a ton of shots. But overall, and he's only been in the playoffs 1 year in 2018. But almost all his averages across the board dropped. He was up, just over 1.1 rebound, but he was down over 6 points a game versus his regular season average. This year, he averaged 24.6 points a game. I believe his line yesterday was 27.5, which was an easy under. He scored 11. So I think if his line comes out in the mid-20s again, I think he's going to be an under again. Memphis is one of the best defensive teams. They have Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr. Up front that Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have to deal with. So I would think that Karl-Anthony Towns, whatever his line comes out at, as long as it's in, it's above 21, really, I would think that's an underplay.
All right, keep an eye on all of these props. As Cheah said, a lot of them are not out yet. And also, you can rewatch this episode of Money Shots on YouTube so that you're not missing anything. You can go back and listen to every analytical breakdown from both of these extremely sharp as attack mine's the one that's not. All right, up next we have Raptors 76ers, another team that's laying 5. Is the Sixers. Kelly, whenever you look at this line and these teams, what does it say?
It says, I feel like this line is way off. And call me crazy, Megan. I really do. I can't believe the Raptors are getting disrespected this way. Current line's 5 at the Barstool Sportsbook. Current money line for game 1 is plus 155. For the series price, though, the Raptors are plus 150. And I wanted to take the Raptors for the series here because the Raptors, even after the Sixers got James Harden, have absolutely dominated Philly. I'm so perplexed by this line that I have to look at it further because I'm going, what am I missing here? Also, Charles Barkley kind of mushed my Raptors series bet that I gave out the other day. And I'm going, wait a minute. If Charles likes the Raptors, he played for the Sixers. This is not good juju. All jokes aside, he is a definite mush. But I'm really perplexed here because I thought this line was going to come out. We were going to see it at 2.5, maybe 3. I just mentioned how well home favorites have done in game 1. So this may be just a complete and utter stay away for me. But I will say this, the under looks rather juicy. When you're looking at non-divisional favorites, line under 7 in the last few years, Megan, games have gone under 11 out of 14 times in the last 7 years. So I'm looking at possibly taking the under here. Current under is 217 at the Barstool Sportsbook. And that's one of the lower totals here for these playoffs. But as Cheah and I already talked about, I'm going to be looking at a lot of unders because I do think it's going to take time for these bookmakers to adjust. I think we're going to see a lot tougher defenses, especially here in this first round.
All right, Che, I know that a lot of the lines are not out that you might be wanting, but what are we looking at in this game as far as player props?
So this one is out. I got to take a look at it. There's two that I really like. So Joel Embiid struggles against Toronto and has struggled against Nick Nurse head coach teams. So I take a look at his under combo. Right now, I believe it's 50.5, which is always really, really high. Even if he has like a 30 and 15 and 4 game, that's an under. So I would look at that one specifically. But what I really like is an overplay, and that's Pascal Siakam. His point total right now is 23.5. His rebound is a little bit high. It's 9.5, but his assists are really low too. So for the year, he averages 5.3 assists. The prop is 4.5, but against Philly specifically, he's averaged 8.3 assists per game this season. So I really like that number. Overall, between his main props, I like his combo probably the best. It's 37.5 right now on the Barstool Sportsbook, which is kind of silly. I mean, the guy averages 30 a game against the Sixers this year. With his, assists and rebounds, I like that a lot. He has some variability between those two. But I think that's going to be my favorite bet of the weekend going into it for game one. I would caution that he is a much better home game player than road player. So keep in mind for that for points for, games 3 and 4. But I do like Pascal Siakam a lot against Philly.
Whenever you say a lot, that kind of sounds like a lock, and I might just have to tell you on that one. All right, last game for Saturday. You got the Nuggets, you got the Warriors. I don't know, Steven, do you remember whenever we did a Nuggets promo and we weren't allowed to call them like the Nugs? I just think that was silly.
We can't call them the Nugs. And I already talked about this game because apparently I wasn't listening very well, and that's why Chase started talking about Dallas.
It's okay. we adapt and survive. It's not a big deal. We'll go back to this one because I wanted to make sure Che got in his props because that was he was started talking about the Warriors earlier in the show. So let's get back on. And as I said, Nugs, Warriors. Warriors are laying 5 at home. Let's start with, Kelly, you've kind of already given your take. So, Che, give me some player props.
So lines for this one aren't out yet, so it'll be interesting. I mean, Nikola Jokic, his combo is going to be really high. It's going to be in the 50s. So that's something to watch whenever it gets up that high, no matter who it is. And I know he put up a historical season. Statistically, I would look at the under, and he has had a lot of success against Golden State. He's averaged, I believe it's like 51 or 52.
Che,
combo.
Can I interject really quick? Because this is a question I've always had, and I wonder if somebody else in the audience does. When you're looking at these, specifically the combo props like that, right? You're paying a premium because he has been just an absolute beast all year long.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But when you start to look at these totals, it's not a low total, 223, but it is a lower total. Do you take that into consideration as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, because lower totals, lower points, lower assists. Again, like I told you, the rebound number, the team rebounds are down very slightly. And the reason is in the postseason, possessions get longer. So I think especially with the combo props, you have to consider the point total. So absolutely, yeah. Jokic is an incredible player and super fun to watch. But any guy's point total that really gets into the 50s outside of maybe Giannis, but even him, I would look at it depending on matchup. I would look strongly at the under. It hasn't come out yet, but one I will say that has been playing really well lately is Aaron Gordon. His combo is probably going to be in the mid 20s. I would guess probably about 25.5, 26.5. That is one I would definitely look at. He will have certainly a tougher matchup, likely with Draymond Green kind of in and around him. But that is one that I would look at very, very strongly once it comes out.
Okay, and not to override NBA talk here with boring MLB, but Clayton Kershaw's throwing a perfect game at the moment.
And Megan just announced her jinxed him.
I definitely didn't because I definitely wanted to take the Dodgers today, and I'm very happy for Clayton Kershaw. However, yesterday I might have been jinxing Bieber, maybe just a little bit. However, it didn't help. It doesn't matter. Okay, Kelly, do you want to talk about series prices, or do you want to go through that, or do you?
No. The series prices are now out at the Barstool Sportsbook. Go have at it. The only one that I did bet was the Raptors. I bet that 2 days ago. We can, if you want, Megan. I just wanted to go through them, see if Che thought that there was anything he liked. We can, if you want. We can talk about the 2 Sunday games, even though I'm not sure I'm going to have a play on either of them.
I say the series prices. I would assume that there's no player props out for series just yet, so I would assume, Steven, that you have your nada.
No, I don't have anything. I don't have anything for the. I don't know if they're going to do that. I do see the series prices out, which are pretty appealing.
Okay, so how about we just leave it here? We're about 36 minutes of absolutely fantastic information, whether it be from Kelly or from Cheah. And obviously you have the Drew Carey of hosts here, just cracking everybody up. Just kidding. I was just calling myself fat and bald. But all right, so thank you, Steven, for not yet. Thank you, Steven, for coming on and giving us your brain. And Kelly, of course, thank you for showing up and making my job a lot easier by looking beautiful and giving out great information. Obviously, you can go back and watch this on YouTube. And Steven, I'm going to ask you one more time, just because I'm a mom and I like to poke. Please post your plays underneath the Money Shots retweet today, because I want to go follow you and tell you on everything. No pressure.
Okay, so actually, that's a great transition. I just got this changed over today. I'm officially the new owner of the Trust the Data handle. So I own that. That's going to be my exclusive gambling. I've gotten a couple complaints that I've been clogging my feed with retweets of people winning and stuff like that. So I will be interacting a ton under that handle, specifically during NBA playoffs and games that I'm betting. At Trust the Data. So it's just a brain emoji. I literally just got it, I think, an hour ago. So I'm following one person. It's myself. So I'll make sure to follow you guys on the Money Shots handle. And I will be interacting under that. It's going to be me. But that is where I'm going to be living now. So that will be the handle for everything gambling related. And I'll keep my regular feed more to bucks and very odd topics. I'll probably tweet out my gambling pick from there or retweet it from Trust the Data. But that's where I'm going to be interacting with all my gambling stuff.
All right, that sounds perfect. Steven, before we sign off, can I get a Giovanni Bernard?
He just re-signed. Giovanni Bernard.
Thank you. Y'all have a fantastic Wednesday.